So good afternoon, students. Today we are going to start. Today's the topic is, you can see on your screen, that making moral choices. Now, before starting this topic, whose turn is there to begin the session?
Ma'am, mine.
Yeah, Ravi, go
Ravi.
for it. Yeah, Ravi,
Okay.
go.
So, hello everyone. I'm going to open the session by covering what we have discussed in the last lecture. So, we were discussing about the ethical manners or some habits. So, there are two types of, there are two meaning of ethical. Into, as you all know that we are living in the 21st century. So, we can say that it is Kali Yuga. So, if you are very much ethical and you are doing the right thing, then you will get a bad outcome. Actually, what happens in ethical, that we are getting good result if we are very much ethical. But if you are doing right thing, then you will get a bad result, and if you are doing wrong thing, then you will get a good result. Suppose if someone is someone a leader and you are embarrassing him and you are saying something wrong about him in front of him, then you might be thrashed. So that's the, if you are telling right but you will be thrashed, so it's a bad result. Next, we have discussed about the responsible professional and ethical corporation. So, what are the responsibilities? First, that prevents professional from taking advantage of others, and it also builds the trust and respect. Next, we have discussed about the ABET, that is Accreditation Board for Engineering and Technology. So, what are the duties of engineers? So, some of the list I'm going to read that. That first duty is that fulfill the need of the people. It takes care of the safety and the security of the people. It also takes care of the health of the person, and it avoids the fraud thing and make a good relation between, or you can say that make it very social. And then we have discussed about the universal ethical principle. What are the principles? That honesty, loyalty, about avoid frauds, doing goods, respect, accountability, and and etc. And so next we have discussed about the importance of ethical cooperation. This is the last topic that we have discussed. And so what are the importance of ethical corporations? That it creates a good society. It means if we all are ethical, we all are doing the good things, then we can create a good society in which the people feel safe, secure, and healthy. Next point is create a good relation. Suppose if I'm a businessman, if I'm treating my client in a very well manner, then there will be a good relation between us. There will be a good bonding between us so that we can go further business. And the next is smooth function. If we are very much ethical, then the function between us and the people, any people, or in the society will be very smooth. And it generates employment. Sorry, it generates employment. If we are very good, we are ethical, we are providing the best thing, and we are very much true, then it may be chances that we can create the employment that employers can easily come to us. So we need not to go to hire that, they will come to us if we are we can say that we are very ethical. So that was about the previous lecture. Thank you.
So good, excellent, Ravi Kumar. Now, yes, as for the Ravi has exactly he has given the summary of our previous session. Now, let's move towards our today's session. Today we are going to learn making moral choices. So we are studying chapter number 5, sorry, chapter number 4, ethics in engineering, where we have seen the sharing of responsibility, as well as we have seen the ethics in engineering. Then we have seen the ethics in professions. Then also we have seen that what is an ethical dilemmas, how to resolve ethical dilemmas. So now we are going to learn making moral choices. So an ethical conflict involves being pulled between two or more objectives, values, ideas, or you can say, which often elicits strong emotional reactions. So one of the challenges is to integrate emotional reactions to different choice option with cognitive evaluation of the possible outcome of the options. Now let me define what does it mean. So as per you can say making moral choice, we all know that what is moral choice, what is morality, and what is right and what is good. That we have learned in the previous session, that how to define, how to take decisions. So in today's, what is morally right and what is morally wrong, so this thing today we are going to learn. So as we see that the competing objectives, so one of the you can say say for example, let me give you one example, then you all learn this thing, that what does it mean. Say for example, sometimes it is difficult to decide that, for example, uh, uh, when there is a competing objective or values may you can say both be ethical in nature. So there will be a chances of conflict between you can say a loyalty to a friend, at the same time duty to report that friend's unlawful behavior. So what will you do? You know this thing, your friends is doing some kind of you can say unfair means of practice. So so you know this thing that your friend is doing copying. So what will you do? Shall we you can say loyal to our friends, or what we have to do? Or shall we report our friends unlawful behavior? What you all will do? For example, I ask that you know you come to know that your friend is doing copy during the examination. What will you do?
Ma'am, we will let him do.
Yeah, you will let him do. So you show loyalty towards your friends, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else? Anybody?
Ma'am, I will demotivate him for doing that, and I will not let him to do cheating in the examination. Just
Okay,
I will make him understand prior the examination that you should not do this.
okay.
Bad practice.
Because this is called the word. Yeah, here the question come the moral choices. What is morally? What would be the moral way you should do? For example, you know this thing. Your friend is doing unfairness of practice, and you know this thing. So shall you? Uh, I'm not taking asking using the word that you support your friend. I'm using the word you remain loyal to your friends, or whether you can say you complain about the unlawful means of practice. क्या करोगे आप?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Take action.
Okay, Chandan. So fine. So each and every person has their own opinions. We can say that. Well, we can't say that your point of view is right, or we can't say your point of view is wrong, because they. But what is my point is that. So the point is that in this kind of situation, in such a situation, the, though it is a one kind of we can say challenges uh, for decision makers, when you can say they face such kind of situation. Here, what will happen? They need to integrate their emotional reactions to the different choice options with their cognitive evolution of the possible or you can say expected outcome. So following you can say, if we see, then this kind of factor you can say contribute to whether a specific decision is being taken as an ethical issue, or a health or a financial issues are themselves an important topic. So here what will happen, it's a it's a moral choice between these two options. It's like an ethical dilemma as well as, but here there is a situation is called ethical dilemma. But once the situation is there, once you take a decision, it is called moral choices. What will you take? So morality can be, you can say, defined as a system of judging act in light of an ideal, or you can say code of conduct. So moral judgment, you can say, involve judgment about what somebody should do in certain situation. So morality means what somebody it's a one kind of, it's a code of conduct, and it is also, you can say, it's a one kind of code of conduct that somebody, what somebody should do, क्या करना चाहिए. This is called morality in this kind of situation. So you can see there is a definition of Hertz. It defines that moral judgment as judgment about the action or character of the people, using as a standard of comparison the moral prescriptions and ideals of one's culture, or you can say subculture, which are frequently formalized in written or unwritten code of conduct. So moral or ethical decisions, you can say, need to be intentional and in response to a sense of obligation that is shaped by an ideal. Now let me define what does it mean. So in short, that let me define in a very short. So this definition is not going to ask, so don't worry. This is just for your, you can say, better understanding. I have just quoted here. Otherwise, there is no use of it. So don't confuse with this definition. So in short, what does this hat mean? That he, according to him, you can see that so there are numbers of, you can say, models of ethical decisions making and actions. So for example, if I need to define this example, this definition with an example, let me give you one example, then you all will learn. Say for example, you can say business ethics educators. Uh, there is a one person whose name is Charles Power and David Vogel. They identified 6 factors, or you can say element, that you can say under like more reasoning and behavior. So, according to them, they have, in short, they have given 6 factors of moral behavior, moral reasoning. So, first is, you can say, moral imagination. I'm giving you this detailed knowledge. This will not be not going to ask, but I have just given because I have read this article. That's why I thought, okay, let me give you some example, because I have read the article on the same thing. So here, when I was reading at the time, I just come across that there is a person whose name is Charles Power and David Vogel. They identify, you can say, the 6 factor, or you can say element, that you can say underlie moral reasoning and behavior, and that are, you can say, particularly relevant in, you can say, organizational settings. So according to them, first is moral imagination. Here, what will happen? They recognize that the even routine choices and relationships have an ethical dimensions. While the second is, you can say, moral identification and ordering. So the names itself suggests that it referred to a, you can say, ability to identify important issues. And here the point comes. We have to identify the important issues and determine the priorities and sort out the competing values. While the third factor is, you can say, moral evaluation. So you can say that using analytical skills, we have to evaluate the option that, and the fourth come element is tolerating moral disagreement, or you can say ambiguity. Because what will happen, that will arise when, you can say, for example, manager disagree about the values and course of action. At the time there will be a question of, you can say, disagreement. While the fifth is, you can say, ability to integrate managerial competence with moral competence. Now what will happen, this integrate in you can say, this factor involves anticipating possible ethical dilemmas that leads to, you can say, in ethical decision making. and making sure that any decisions become part of the system or not. While the sixth and the final element is sense of moral obligation. Now here our points come that serve as you can say motivating force to engage in moral judgment, or you can say to implement decisions. Now here what will happen? So in short, there should be, you can say, the definition, the meaning of this definition is all about, you can say, that there is a sense of, you can say, that just a second. Yeah. So in short, it's a one kind of, you can say, sense that people should have that moral obligation, that you must have studied this obligation, but this your obligation. It means we should have some kind of obligation that morally, whether we should do the right thing or we should do the wrong thing. So we have to, we can say, frequently formalize in written or unwritten codes of conduct. Now, the same framework for ethical decision making, we have to see. So there are three frameworks. We have seen the factor, but factor was not the part of your syllabus. But I have read in an article. So that's why I thought, okay, let me share with you. Frameworks. First is, you can say, the duty framework. So if you talk about the framework, then what is framework? The framework means that we can say that it is a one kind of, you can say, moral, or you can say uh, one kind of code of conduct that you can say that will give, you can say, more detailed focus, you can say, information regarding our code of conduct. This is the one kind of, we can say, novel and difficult and ethical choices that we are facing. So we need to rely on discussion and dialogue with we can say, with our dilemmas. So for this dilemmas, whenever the dilemmas are there, so that is why these codes of conduct are there. So for this code of conduct, there is a framework. First is the duty framework. In this duty framework, if we talk about the duty framework, then the duty framework is focuses on the, you can say, duties and obligation that we have in a given situation, and at the same time, uh, what you can say ethically obligation obliged, you can say, we have, and what things we should never do. Ethical, you can say, conduct is, you can say, defined by doing one's duties, and you can say doing the right thing, and the goal is performance, performing is the correct action or not. This is also the part of duty framework. This duty framework, if I need to give detailed thing, then the duty framework, then if we talk about the duty framework, then there is, you can say, advantages as well as disadvantages, because this framework has advantage as well as the disadvantage. If you talk about the advantage of duty framework, then it's a one kind of, you can say, creating system of rules that has, you can say, consistent expectation from all the people. So if an action is ethically correct or a duty is required, it would apply to every person in a given situation, because it encourages, you can say, treating everyone with equal dignity and respect. While if you talk about the this framework, or you can say focuses moral rules and duties, then there are some, you can say, disadvantages even, or you can say limitation, because it is impersonal. First is because in that it might require action which are known to produce harms, even though they are, you can say, strictly in keeping with particular moral values. So it also does not, you can say, provide a way to determine which duty we should follow or which duty we should not follow, because there is no parameters, or you can say there is no such a kind of, you can say, software that decide that whether which duty is right and which duty is wrong. So that is why there are some advantages and disadvantages. But if we remove the disadvantages, then also if we talk about the advantages, then this framework, you can say, focuses on, you can say, following the moral rules or duties, you can say, whatever outcome is there. Even if there is a bad result also, then also we should follow the moral duty. Say for example, if you complain about your friend, say for example, I have given the example in the beginning, then what will happen? My voice is breaking. Sorry, right now I have seen. Am I audible right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes,
fine.
ma'am.
Yeah. So in the beginning, I have given one example that there is a very critical situation when we come to know that our friend is doing unfair means the practice during the examination. So what should we do? Should I complain or should I remain loyal to my friends? So at that time, you can say that if you complain, then what will happen? Maybe your relationship might be spoiled. There are chances. So, but if you follow the ethical moral, if you select the moral path, then definitely we should complain and we should stop him doing this. But definitely it will spoil our relationship. So as per the framework, I'm talking about this. We are studying this framework. Then we have seen even whether that the result is bad outcome is there, but this duty outcome teaches us to follow the moral path, or you can say moral code of conduct. Now the next one is the consequentialist framework. Just a second, yeah, okay, fine. And the third one is the virtue framework. So first, the site was stuck that I couldn't change. The consequential framework, I think that sorry, the duty framework we have studied. It focuses on duties and obligations that one has in given situation. Advantage and disadvantages we have seen even. So if I need to conclude this duty framework, then you can see that it works best in situation when there is a sense of obligation, while it works in this. The disadvantage is that it is rigid in applying the notion of duty regardless of personal situation. Yeah. Now next is, you can say, the virtue framework. In this virtue framework, if we talk about, then it identifies the character trait, positive or negative, that might, you can say, motivate one in a given situation. It is more, you can say, concerned with what kind of person one should be and what action indicate one's character. It depends on what a virtuous person would do in the given situation. Now, if we talk about, let me first define what does it mean. So, this virtue framework, that you can say that this framework is definitely, you can say, either in a positive or in a negative situations are there. This framework is, you can say, motivate us in all the situation, positive as well as in the negative situation. And it also emphasizes on that what kind of person we should be and what our action indicate about our character. And at the same time, it also defines that ethical behavior as whether a virtuous person would do in a situation. So in short, this meant that virtue is the word itself. When you read the word virtue, what does it mean? By the way, you all know the meaning of virtue or not? Virtue, vices and virtues. So the word itself suggests that we should follow the virtuous part. In short, the virtuous thing, it focuses on the virtuous thing. Now, the, the same framework, you can say, is also having advantages as well as, you can say, disadvantages. The advantage is that it is useful in a situation that asks what sort of person would should be. It takes account of all part of human experience and the role in ethical deliberation. It believes that all one's experiences, emotions, and thought can influence the development of one's character. Now, as we all know this thing that in this virtuous situation it is obviously that this framework is useful in situation that ask a sort of person one should be. So in short, it believes that all the one's experiences, emotions, thought can be influenced the development of one's character. So now let me give you one example here. That say for example, as we are seeing in the movies or somewhere that there are the person who is, you can say, the first, he or she has so many kind of, you can say, he or she, or you can say following the you can say not following the virtuous path, and then by the, you can say, influence or by the some turning point in their life, and then they started to learn the virtuous path. So this you can say the this virtuous framework, you can say, argues us, or you can say that uh, focuses that through the, you can say, it is believed that the all one's experience, emotions, thought, all can be influenced, and it can develop one's good character. So this can be changed. So it is not it does not believe, it does not saying us that this thing that the this virtuous framework teaches that if the person wishes, if the person try, then definitely they can change, they can influence their behavior, human experience, human behavior. So this is the advantage of you can say this path. While if you talk about the disadvantage, then the disadvantage is that it is very difficult sometimes. We all know this thing that it is very difficult to follow the virtuous path always. So this is also one kind of disadvantage, because as we all know that it is very difficult to follow the virtuous path. So there is the ambiguous term, so it is not in the term, but it is my point of view. This advantage is not, you can say, in this framework is there, but I, this is my, you can say, because once we read, then we can also uh, certain kind of ideas in your mind. Say for example, once you all are studying right now, there might be some kind of ideas in your mind, so that's why I'm sharing. But I feel this thing that this could be the disadvantage. So next is the consequentialist framework. In this framework, it focuses on, you can see that there are, this focuses on, you can say, future effects of the possible course of action, and it's considered that the people who will be directly or indirectly affected. So we ask about what outcome are desirable in a given situation, and in consider ethical conduct to be whatever will achieve the best consequences. So the person using the, you can say, consequences framework desires to produce the most good. It means the most best thing, you can say. So if we talk about the advantage, then it focuses on the result of the actions, is a pragmatic approach, but it also helps in situation involving many people, and some may benefit and other may not. So sometimes some may get benefit while others may not get the benefit from the same framework. So while on the other hand, it is not, you can say, always possible. Let me say one thing here also. So it is not, you can say, always possible to predict the, you can say, consequences of an action. So some actions that are, you can say, expected to produce good consequences might actually end up harming people. So consequences is focused on consequences, means result. So always we can't predict that this thing will happen. If you do this thing, then this good outcome will be there. So this can be the disadvantage, even that it is not necessary that whatever you can say prediction or thinking that we have done, this will happen. It sometimes we expected the good consequences, but it ends you can say it ends up with, you can say, harming people. So additionally, you can say people sometimes react negatively to the use of compromise, which is, you can say, this the part of this approach. And if another disadvantage, if I need to talk about this, also you can say This will be again, according to my point of view, I'm just thinking like that, where that it also does not include, you can say, that pronouncement that certain things are always wrong, or you can say certain things are always harmful, or certain things are always good. So it's because, this is this outcome for some people, maybe you can say that this framework allows for, you can say, we have to, whenever we are taking in short moral choices, this framework always is not, you can say, we can always not rely on this framework, that it always gives us the, you can say, good outcome. Now the next is ethical decision making process. So it is, in this, you can see there are some steps. You can see the steps. So there are some steps, or there are some, you can say, things that will definitely help you to, you can say, the ethical decision making process in this process. So first is take time to define the problem. So whenever there is a, you can say, problem, at the time some initial analysis has to happen, and for leaders, it is truly understand that whether they need to bring in ethical principles or not. So leaders needs to decide why an ethical decisions needs to be made, and the outcomes that are desired for the decisions or not, while consult resources and seek assistance. Here, leaders need to, we can say, work on developing the strategy using the resources and people around them. So whether it is, you can say, qualified co-worker, HR professionals, or you can say policies makers, or you can say there can be some handbook, or you can say whatever things available are there. Leader needs to gain, you can say, clarity from other sources. So when creating the strategy to tackle the issue, so they need to go through the, you can say, when if there will be any handbook, or if there will be any consult persons like HR, co-workers, or something is there. But it is good that if they consult with the resources and seek assistance. Next is think about the lasting effect. So once we take the help, or you can say assistance from others, uh, any advice for, you can say, how to handle an issue should be filtered through the lens of, you can say, how it will affect others. We should keep in mind that how it is going to be affect. Uh, for example, you can say if there is an issue with the employees getting to work on time, then manager could, you can say, install the policies that change the times of co-workers reporting. So if somebody is facing issues with timing or something, then it is the duty of manager that he needs to install some kind of policy that can change the time of reporting time of workers. But if they are not careful, but if, say for example, if they are not careful, then what will happen? It may have a harmful impact on other workers, even on clients. So this will happen. Then next is consider regulation in other industries. Now, it is also a good thing that rules and regulation, or you can say regulation and standards that other companies have established, can be a good starting point for developing ethical strategies. So if we know some good companies, or you can say some good organizations where they are already following some good, you can say, ethical strategies, then it is good to take examples from there. So leaders should, you can say, take a look at how they handle specific issues that have come their way. So because it might also be helpful to take a look at, you can say, the mistakes that leaders, company and other organizations have made, and learn from them. Because if they have faced any kind of problem, if they have done any kind of mistakes while following, you can say, the same ethical practices, then if we have taken the example, or you can say, if we take a look into it, then definitely we can also save our organizations to to get, you can say, from this from any kind of harm or any kind of loss. Next is decide on a decision. So after, you can say, consulting other, and you can say doing a bit of extra research, now it is the time for, you can say, final decision. So since the choice will, you can say, likely impact many, because it is we are going to take a decision for, you can say, larger number of people. It is good idea to, you can say, to create a proposal of what the issue is and how leaders plan to work with the team to solve it. So if the problem is more personal, and you can say it involves uh, some kind of issues, then it is more appropriate to only deal with those involved and establish a plan of action to handle that particular situation. It means that if the issue is sensitive, say for example, it's very sensitive issue or some kind of personal issues are there, so it is better that the leader should involve only concerned people, and it should not, you can say, uh, to be discussed with, you can say, each and every person. So for, because widespread ethical issues that have become a problem in the workplace, so it is good practice to bring decisions to the team at large, but at the same time, if the issue is, you can say, some kind of sensitive or, you can say, confidential, then it should be discussed privately. Next is implement and evaluate. Now here, once the decision has been taken, now there is a, you can say, where we action talk amidst action. It is easy for people to, can say, research and create solution to a problem. But when dealing with morality and ethics, you can say, it can be, you can say, uh, challenging to put it into action finally, because no one benefit from a plan that is not put into practice. So at the same time, if you do not put this plan into action, then there is no use of it. So certainly we have to put our plan into action, and at some point of time, you can say, leaders need to facilitate the implementation of the ethical decisions. And also the application is not enough. Evolution allows everyone. At the same time, we have to evaluate even. The next is evolution even, implement and evolution. So at the same time, we have to evaluate, that you can say that the whatever you can say implementation, whatever you can say ethical decisions have been implied, whether it's being followed or not, the workers are following or not, or is there any problem that they need to finally fix it. And they also need to check that did the things get better or worse. Say for example, that if you implemented any kind of policies, any kind of rules, any kind of ethical practices, then if you provide some kind of, you can say, some kind of, you can say, benefit, or you can say, uh, facilitate them. Facilitate means if you give them some kind of, you can say, encouragement, or in a form of tangible, or you can say intangible way, then definitely it is also part of leader, duty of the leader, that through, you can say, uh, through tangible or intangible way, or you can say by hook or crook. If I use the word strict word hook or crook, but if you remove the hook or crook word, then through the punishment, or you can say through the uh, through the uh, through the praising or through the punishment, whether the punishment, or you can say either through the punishment, or you can say or praising. But it's a duty of the leader that they should, you can say, make sure that the this decision ethical decisions that they have implemented, whether it's being, you can say, being followed by or not. And after following, they also need to make sure that the decision that they have taken, whether it's a worse or a better. Yes.
Ma'am, and go backslide.
Yes.
Then, मैम एक बार एक और बैक साइड एक और
Hmm.
हो गया मैम
Next is Roland Skolbach's theory of moral development. Just a second. Okay, as I can see that right now 12:46, so I'm not going to start this theory because at 1 o'clock you all have a lecture. So let me take attendance first of all. Just a second, because otherwise you all will be late. Abhishek,
Yes, ma'am.
stop. Amod, Avinash.
Yes, ma'am.
अविनाश आज आप लैब में नहीं थे?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm asking you were there or not?
मैम थोड़ा काम था इसलिए नहीं थे मैम.
Fine. Be ready with the presentation in my next lab.
Yes,
Harshit,
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Jay Shankar,
Yes, ma'am.
Moniratna, Manish,
Yes, ma'am.
Nidhi, Purnima,
Yes, ma'am.
Ravindra, Rahul, Raj, Rishabh,
Yes, ma'am.
Sadashiv, Shibu, Shilpi, Sonakshi.
Yes, sir, Shilpi.
Yeah, got it. जो lab में present थे in my previous session, I remember that they were there. Sonakshi, Sunita, Vipul,
Yes, ma'am.
Abhishek Tiwari,
Yes, ma'am.
Arman, Gaurav, Om Prakash,
Yes, ma'am.
Pankaj, Saurabh,
Yes, ma'am.
Suman, Udit,
Present, ma'am.
Abhiraj,
Yes, ma'am.
Suresh,
Yes, ma'am.
Aman,
Yes, ma'am.
Alsef, Amit, Ankit,
Yes, ma'am.
Aryan, Ashish,
Yes, ma'am.
Bajrang, Bhumika,
Yes, ma'am. Bajrang.
Bhumika, Rajesh, Chandan,
Yes, ma'am. Chandan. Yes, ma'am.
Divya.
Burjesh.
Sorry, I haven't seen your chat box. I have seen that. Fine. Yeah, Divyanshu,
Yes, ma'am.
Gagan,
Yes, ma'am.
Ashish,
Yes, ma'am.
Priyanka,
Divyansu video.
Priyanka,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Mananjay,
Yes, ma'am.
Manish, Manish, Rahul,
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am.
Rajiv,
Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Roshan,
Ma'am, Manish.
Roshan, Robi, Rinku,
Present, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Rohini,
Yes, ma'am.
Ruma, Shravan, Sonu,
Yes, ma'am. I'm present, ma'am. Shravan
Sonu
Kumar present.
Kumar, Sonu Kumar, Sonu Kumar, why were you not there in my lab?
हेलो मैम हेलो
Yes, Sonu, I'm listening.
मैम सोए आ गए थे
Good, very good, excellent. So now be ready with presentation in my next lab.
ओके मैम
Umang,
Yes, ma'am.
मैं मैम
Vicky,
हेलो मैम
Present, ma'am.
Vinay,
Vicky Vinayak.
Yes,
yes,
ma'am.
हेलो
okay,
मैम हेलो
Vinay. So now don't disturb me. Let me finish this attendance and then let me know. So Ruma is there. Roshan is there. Let me know if they are present then. Bhumika, Bhumika,
यस मैम भूमिका प्रेजेंट मैम स्पीकर काम नहीं कर रहा है उसका
कोई बात नहीं. Aryan, Alsef, Amit, Sumant, Gaurav, Arman Ali, Sunita, Sonakshi, Maniratna, Alok Amod. So fine. Please, I'm not going to share that. I have to share in tomorrow because the thing is that we couldn't finish the today's task, today's topic. That's why. And the questions were I have prepared the questions from the remaining topic. That's why. So we are going to finish it tomorrow, and at the same time, tomorrow today is the last topic of unit number 5. So tomorrow that let me finish. There is 2 to 5 minutes are there. So tomorrow there might be unit test. So be ready for this thing. And the in your e content I have already shared everything. So you can check that. Unit number 4 is there. फाइन सो कल आपकी यूनिट टेस्ट रहेगी साथ में यही क्विज भी मैं डाल दूंगी ठीक है unit test should be a surprise test but then also I'm telling you always in advance one day in advance में कहती हूँ so yes thank you
तो
so much
अब सरप्राइज रहा ही नहीं मैम
हमें इसे करके भी कोई फायदा नहीं है ना whether whatever we are doing to